All right, good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to another Short War Summary. And today we're receiving very big breaking news coming out of the Black Sea that Ukraine has carried out a successful unmanned drone boat attack on the Black Sea fleet, and one of those Russian warships has been severely damaged and disabled, and it had to be towed back to port to avoid it sinking in the water. So, very big success on Ukraine's part, and we do have photo and video evidence to show you exactly what happened. So moving into our first article here, we have a post from Nexta. It says the naval base in Novorossiysk was attacked by two sea drones, and the Russian MOD tries to claim that the unmanned boats were destroyed near the Russian village. And we do know for a fact here now that it happened in Novorossiysk or around that area, and also the Russian MOD is trying to claim that they destroyed the drone boats. We know for a fact that that did not happen because one of the Russian vessels was severely damaged. And if Russia destroyed all the boats, then how did that happen? So it's more Russian propaganda, and they're trying to make it seem like they have the situation under control, and we know for a fact that they don't. So, with that being said, let's move into our next news article, and this one is from Euromaidan Press. And it says, Russia's Black Sea port in Novorossiysk is now temporarily closed following the nighttime marine drone boat attack, according to the Russian MOD. And in this video right here in the post, you can hear in the background that there is some strong gunfire going on, which is the Russian vessels trying to take out those drone boats as they were trying to attack their fleet. And let's go ahead and have a listen to the video right now. And as you can hear, the Russians are definitely in a panic. They're trying to get rid of those drone boats before they hit. And we saw in an upcoming video that one of those drone boats were not detected or they were unable to get hit, and it made it to its target and it severely damaged a Russian warship. So with this post out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to our next one. And this one goes to Georgie. And it says, now it can be confirmed that a Russian large landing ship has been damaged by an uncrewed surface vessel near Novorossiysk. And let's go ahead and play this video right here and enlarge it. And you can see there is that vessel that was hit by the drone boat attack. It is listing very heavily to the left, and it looks like it's in the process of sinking. So it's pretty safe to say that that vessel right there will not be returning to service anytime soon, and it almost became a submarine. Almost, but not quite. But the Ukrainians did do quite a number on this vessel right here for them to have to tow it back into port with so many tugboats and in a shape like this. Quite an embarrassment for Russia, and quite deserved. And moving on to our next post here, we have one from Visegrad 24. It says Ukraine released video evidence of its attack on the Russian landing ship, and the naval drone was supposedly packed with 450 kilograms of explosives, which caused the significant damage to the ship. And the ship normally has a crew of 100 sailors, and it's unknown how many Russians might have been killed. And we're not sure here if we have any casualties, but I would imagine with an explosion this large, 450 kilograms, that it would be somewhat unlikely that there were no casualties. So we'll have to wait and see if the Russians are honest about that. But let's go ahead and take a look at this video from the drone boat itself that Ukraine released and see what happened. And we can see the left side of that vessel right here. It's unclear if the thing was even detected by the crew on board, but it made its way right to the side, and the feed goes out, and that's when the drone boat exploded. So quite interesting that Ukraine released this video so quickly so the world can see exactly what happened, and we can see here that this Russian vessel was caught off guard and it was severely damaged, as we said. So big success on Ukraine's part, and good on them for getting it done. And moving on to our next post here, we have one from the Kyiv Post. It says satellite images of the large landing ship, which was damaged today in the Black Sea, have appeared online. And as you can see in this photo, there is the vessel right here in port, and it is listing very strongly to the left in this satellite image as well, and it's accompanied by a tugboat right there next to it. You can see the image zoomed in here. You can kind of get a good idea of what's going on, but it's a little grainy. Over here on the right, you can see a vessel that's actually sitting upright, and then you see this one listing off to the left. So it's in pretty bad shape, and we can see now that it's confirmed in the harbor in this type of shape. So it's not going back out anytime soon. So moving on to our next post here, we have one from Visegrad 24. And this is changing gears to a different story a little bit. Here we see Latvian troops moving close to the border with Belarus, and they're actually doing a pretty large deployment here. As you can see, a lot of troops, a lot of equipment, and they are taking the Wagner threat pretty seriously. The post also says Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia are all on high alert due to the arrival of the Wagner group in Belarus. And we have seen that the Wagner Group is doing very provoking things, for example, to Poland especially, by flying those helicopters across the border. And it appears to me that the threat is justified, and this large deployment here might be a good preparation. And clearly, these countries think so, and they're the best ones to know what the situation actually is on the ground. So this deployment here is probably necessary, but only time will tell exactly what the situation turns out to be. And it might turn out to be nothing, or it could turn out to be a pretty large conflict that could break out between Wagner and these NATO countries. So with that, let's move on to our next article. And this one is from Apex. And this one is going to be somewhat contentious, and I encourage you to put your opinion down in the comments below. And I'm going to stay neutral on this one and let y'all all decide what you think. This one says, Lithuania has declared more than 1,000 citizens of Russia and Belarus living in the country to be threats to national security, and said it is stripping them of their permanent residency permits. So, on this one, like I said, I'm going to remain neutral. Everyone's going to have a different opinion on this, but it appears that Lithuania thinks this is a necessary step to protect their country and ensure their national security, so this is a step that they're taking. I'm going to leave it at that and move on to our next news article. This one is from Visegrad24 as well. And it says, breaking, the internal affairs ministers of Lithuania and Poland have issued a joint statement. They say the two states have created a mechanism for jointly closing all border crossings with Belarus in the case that the Wagner Group would escalate things. And once again, we have seen some border incursions in Poland, so understandably, they are taking steps to close their border if absolutely necessary to prevent Wagner from crossing. We've also heard intel reports that supposedly Wagner is trying to pose like migrants to be able to sneak across the border and then conduct acts of terrorism inside of Poland and these other Baltic states. So we'll have to wait and see what this turns out to be. And it's good to know that Poland and all these other countries are taking steps to make sure that they are able to properly protect their borders. And with that, moving on to our next news article, we have one from Fitux News, and it says Ukraine's security service claims that Russia is preparing a false flag operation at a Belarusian oil refinery to blame Ukrainian saboteurs, and the goal of the operation is try to draw Belarus into the war, and that was reported by Reuters. And on this one, I must admit I'm a little bit skeptical because Ukraine's security service always claims that something is going to be a false flag, and we've seen in the past that it turns out that some of these things have not turned out to be true. So while I'm not saying that the Ukrainian security service is unreliable, I would wait for more evidence to come out about this before drawing a distinct conclusion about it, because we could find out that there's some missing details or some pieces of the puzzle that we don't have just yet. So I'm going to wait and withhold judgment on this one. But that is the report coming out of Ukraine. And moving on to our next news article here, we have one from the Kyiv Post. It says the future has arrived as Ukraine further innovates with unmanned ground vehicles while the offensive reaches new milestones. And here, in this picture right here, you can see one of the vehicles that Ukraine is working on. It's a drone buggy with a machine gun on it and GPS. This is super cool, and Ukraine is really becoming very innovative, if I can say that word properly, about these vehicles. As we can see here, it's been in the works for a long time, even in the West, to develop drones like this that can go across the battlefield on their own and be piloted remotely. And this right here is pretty much every young boy's dream, is to have a machine gun on top of an RC buggy. So this is a very interesting creation by Ukraine, and it'll be interesting to see if they can actually implement these vehicles on the battlefield in real-world practice. It'll be very fascinating to see. And moving on to our last post of the day, we have a piece of news from Flash News Ukraine. It says the construction of the factory for the production of Shahed in the Russian Federation is 80% completed, according to the Pentagon. And we can see here that Iran actively supplies the Kremlin with construction equipment, and experts assume that the plant can start working as early as April of next year. So with this plant being pretty close to completion, it's only 20% remaining complete that they need to complete, according to the Pentagon. It looks like the Russians might have a newly found drone factory, which will allow them to produce these drones cheaper and also faster, which is not good news for Ukraine, but it still looks like the factory has a little ways to go, but not good to hear, because already we know Russia is getting drones from Iran directly, but they aren't able to get them as fast, and this factory is going to change that. So not good to see, and also it's Iran once again supporting the evil regime of Russia, which is no shock in itself. But with that being said, that is all of our news for the day. We've gotten some very positive and very good news about that Ukrainian drone boat attack. I was very happy to hear that, and Ukraine has been successful. They're starting to implement those drone boats very well in the recent months, and I'm glad to see it. And with that being said, if you would press like on the video, please subscribe to the channel, and if you want, go peep our Twitter page. Our Twitter handle is @It'sTheEnforcer on Twitter, and we post the news as it happens over there, and that is the fastest way to stay up to date with what's happening in Ukraine and also Taiwan if anything breaks out over there. So, also, I almost forgot to mention, if you want to support our channel, we do have a Patreon. The link is in the description below, and you can go over there and support our work, and it helps us to keep pumping out videos like this one and updating everyone on the war as it progresses. So, thank you all for watching. I hope it's been informative, and bye-bye for now.